Hello, welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun come to life. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for damage to property or person. Upon discovery of damage or if death has occurred, a missing persons report will be filed within 90 days or as soon as property and premises have been thoroughly cleaned, bleached, and the carpets have been replaced. Sorry about that, newbie. Company policy dictates that I give you the introductory greeting on the first night, and I wanted to just get it out of the way. Anyway, let me give you a quick rundown of what your job entails, besides, guarding the building. So, the first order of business is to explain to you a few things about the animatronics in this particular establishment. The animatronic characters have a sort of free-roaming mode that we leave them on at night. Something about their servos locking up if they get turned off for too long, and all that mechanical jazz that I don't get paid enough to even care about. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. The only real risk to you as a night guard here, if any, is the animatronics themselves. I know that they might seem completely harmless, but they have a few glitches in their systems that can make them a handful. Nighttime is an especially sensitive time for them. They can get a bit irritable and chaotic. Do I blame them? No. If I had to perform those, same songs for I think 20 years now, and I was never washed, I'd probably be a bit irritable at night too. Since the place is supposed to be empty at night, they don't really recognize people as people, but as costumeless endoskeletons. Now, since that's against the rules here at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, they'll probably try to forcefully stuff you inside one of the suits we have in the back. Now, that wouldn't be so bad if the suits themselves weren't filled with cross beams, wires, and animatronic devices, especially around the facial area. So you can imagine how having your head forcefully pressed inside one of those could cause a bit of discomfort and death. It might be a good idea to peek at those cameras while I talk, just to make sure everyone's in their proper place, Anyway, I also want to emphasize the importance of using your door lights. There are blind spots in your camera view, and those blind spots happen to be right outside your doors. So, if you can't find something or someone on your cameras, be sure to check the door lights. You might only have a few seconds to react. Not that you would be in any danger, of course, I'm not implying that. Also, keep in mind that your office is running off of the power of a small generator. The owner wanted to cut costs on nighttime utilities, so you're kinda stuck with a limited power supply. Closing doors and using lights uses up the generator's energy. And when its power is completely drained, the lights will go out, but the doors will remain stuck open. Apparently, it goes against the fire code to have the doors auto-lock in case of a loss of power. I've heard they become a lot more active in the dark, though, so, hey, I guess that's one more reason not to run out of power, right? Now that we got all that training out of the way, tell me, why did you decide to take this job? We used to leave things like this to summer interns, but after what happened with the bite of 87 and all those missing persons incidents, our applicants have been few and far between. Well, let's be fair though. Things have been going downhill for the Fazbear Company way before the bite of 87. If I had to pinpoint exactly where the decline started, it would be back in 83. Mr. Afton, who was one of the previous owners, lost his son in some serious accident in one of the locations. We had these suits called spring locks. They were supposed to be wearable costumes that can turn into animatronics when not being used by the staff. You basically pushed all the animatronic parts to the sides of the suit using spring locks and a hand crank to make room for a person to just hop inside. Problem was that the spring locks were volatile, and erratic movements or liquids like water could set them off and impale who was ever inside. There were a few incidents recorded where this happened to staff members, but the suits were only retired after the incident with the owner's son. A group of boys, including the boy's older brother, grabbed him and stuffed his head in one of those animatronic mouths in what they thought was going to be a silly prank. The problem was that the boy was crying and moving erratically, causing the spring locks to fail, and, well, you can imagine. He was taken into urgent care, but died in the hospital after a couple of days. The whole Afton family was pretty distraught. It really took a toll on Mr. Afton, though. He used to be so in love with the franchise, but it seems like the accident turned him into a shadow of his former self. The Springlock suits were retired after that, and now they just sit around in the back rooms of whatever locations are left. We actually have one of the Springlocks here. It's in the parts and service room, where we keep all the costumes and the animatronic bits. It's basically a Freddy costume, except he's just gold. Though that one isn't a color-swapped Freddy. The character's name is Fredbear, and he came from a place called Fredbear's Family Diner, which was the original location before they franchised it into Fazbear Entertainment. Some of the employees say that they can hear him twitch from time to time when they're not looking, but I'm sure they were just spooked by the stories of the incident of '83 and are hearing some things that aren't even there. If I had a nickel, though, for every death of an owner's family member that happened on company grounds, I'd have 2 nickels. It's not much, but it's weird that it's happened twice. Henry, who was the other owner of the franchise, lost his daughter, too, outside one of our establishments. Some kids locked her outside during a birthday party, and some maniac attacked her in front of the establishment since she was all alone. They found her dead in the back of the building near one of the security puppets. It probably left its station to go check on her, but got there too late. The security puppet? Well, back in the day, we used to have cutting-edge tech in the field of robotics. It was the first attempt the company made at mixing security features into animatronics. The result was a robotic puppet on strings who could use a system of rails on the ceilings to move around the restaurant and interact with kids, but also prevent them from leaving the restaurant without permission. After the incident with Henry's daughter, they were labeled inadequate security and were relegated to regular entertainment duties. No, they didn't. And actually, things got really bad really quick after that. 5 kids went missing inside the restaurant. A few witnesses say that they saw someone in a gold bunny costume taking kids to the back of the establishment. This is technically impossible, though, since the only ones who had access to where we kept the decommissioned Springlock suits were staff. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that Fredbear had a sidekick back in the family diner days. His name was Bon the Bunny. It was basically Bonnie, but gold and with a purple vest. Blue Bonnie came after during the franchise era. It's the only other type of Springlock suit we have besides Fredbear's, but we kept it in a staff room that's not visible in your CCTV. Staff members use that room to change into costumes, so privacy. But as I was saying, those disappearances, which was later called the Missing Children's Incident, would be the final nail in the coffin for the partnership between Henry and Afton. Afton would end up leaving the company and all the bad press to start 2 new companies, one called Circus Babies Pizza and Rentals, and another called Afton Robotics, but the former never opened due to some sort of gas leak. Henry decided to shut down the restaurant and just move forward with the company, putting these old animatronics in storage and opening up a new upscaled location. It even had new animatronics. Those new ones were state of the art. We used to call them the toys since they looked like the old school action figures Fazbear Entertainment sold during the golden age of Freddy's, when they had the TV show and action figures. They spent a small fortune on the new animatronics. Facial recognition, advanced mobility, they even let them walk around during the day. But most importantly, they were all tied into some kind of criminal database so they could detect a predator a mile away. But even though they had everything in place to keep things from playing out like last time, somehow someone got a hold of a bunny springlock suit again. And there went 5 more kids. Except this time, it was all in one day. Apparently there was a loophole around the whole facial recognition system. If you wore a mask, there would be no face to recognize, which was a major oversight for what was supposed to be state-of-the-art security system. The only people who would have had access to the suit and would even know about that particular loophole would have had to have been staff. And I feel like that theory was confirmed a few days later, when the bite of 87 kinda happened. One of the animatronics attacked a staff member who was recently promoted to a daytime security position after the previous staff member quit. On their first day, they were randomly attacked by one of those animatronics. It's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe, you know? After those 2 incidences, the location was just shut down, and the other franchises have been closing one after another. We got so desperate and tight with money that we pulled the old animatronics from storage and made them the headliners for the restaurant again. Other restaurants in the franchise have been closing left and right, and we are one of the few that managed to stay open after all the bad press. Even so, the company is on its last legs. As a person who grew up with the Fredbear franchise, and has been working in the Fazbear company for a while, it's a tragedy to see what was once a happy place turn into what is now a daze. But the only reason any of this is still open is because Henry believes that we can keep going and bring Freddy's back to the glory days. Maybe one day he'll turn things around, but for now, all we can try to do is bring a bit of fantasy and fun to people the patented Fazbear way. Anyway, thanks for listening to me, newbie. You're a good listener. As someone who really loves this franchise, it's hard to find people who I feel I can open up to about these things. I won't take up any more of your night. You probably want to go back to keeping an eye on the animatronics, and I need to go back to settling lawsuits. Remember, treat those old things with some respect. They've seen and been through a lot. Without them, though, there wouldn't be a pizzeria. And they are the reason people keep coming back to the restaurant, after all. I'll see you in the morning.